Hello and welcome back. Well, we've been enjoying a lot of rain here in Devon over the last few months, so we're very much looking forward to sunny summer sailing all the more. In this episode, we're going to be making the mast. We're going to be discovering a lot about the history of our boat. We're going to be deciding upon a name, but first of all, a little bit more discussion about finish. And we've also bought some of this finish, which can go on top of linseed oil, and it's called Le Tonkinois. Is that how you say it, Connor?
Le Tonkinois. Yeah.
Le Tonkinois. And it is supposed to be used by the French Navy, and it's good enough for the French Navy.
Right. My only concerns about this are, I mean, it might be a very good product, but my only concerns about this are, I don't think the French Navy have very many wooden boats.
Also, it didn't do them much good at Trafalgar, did it?
No. That's true. So, but I do like the tin.
The tin.
And that is persuading me that perhaps we should be using it.
The tin is fantastic, isn't it? Look at that, the shape of the tin.
So that's a possibility because we like the tin.
That's like one of those YouTube paint reviews.
Do you read YouTube?
It's
What's got us in this state. If we only had one finish, we'd have painted the second thing.
It's like when you go on YouTube, you'll be like, oh, I think I'll watch that because they review boat finish. People would be like talking about it in the pubs. They'll be saying, God, did you see that video the other day on paint reviews? It was fantastic. I was gripped right to the end.
I couldn't put it down.
I didn't know whether they were going to go for Sickins, Le Tonkinois, Dex Oil, or an old pasty.
You might remember Odette from episode 8, the Morgan Giles dinghy that's going to help us with rigging for our boat.
Right, so we've taken Odette out, and the idea this morning is to put the sail up, put the rig up, and see exactly how everything fits together.
We think this might be a locking mechanism for either the forestay or the port or starboard mast stay. It's a very clever little, very simple locking ring device.
So, looking at Odette here, can see that there's a different design for the way that the side seats are supported. They're more supported. They're on top of the thwart here.
What's interesting?
This is like a weird extra piece on the starboard here. It's a very strange arrangement.
We've put the mast up, and we've ended up with a whole load of stays and ropes that we don't quite know what they're doing, because this is the halyard, but it seems to be attached to some kind of forestay. So that's not making sense, and it's actually incredibly cold today. So we're thinking of maybe worrying about the sail another day.
Which is unlike us, really, kicking something into the long grass.
I think if we're honest about it, right, if we were on Shackleton's endurance trip, I don't think we would have done very well.
I don't like seal.
What we're doing is we're marking out the mast, and we've got this piece of timber. We've been through and we've identified various knots. We think we can mostly avoid them. And the shape of the timber is, it's sort of square in section up to the point of the thwart where it's held in the boat, and then it goes into a round. But it also tapers in the last 3.5 feet of the mast. It tapers. So our first job is to mark in the taper and plane that away. And then we have to plane away these edges from 4 to 8, from 8 to 16.
You mean sides?
Yeah, and from 16 sides to 32 sides. And then sand it, and we should end up with a round section.
There must be a word for a 32-sided geometrical figure. But I only know the word for geodecahedron. So.
I think it's called a 32-agon.
That'd be it, all right.
Yeah, I think. And also, there's an amazing interesting piece of fate that has happened, which seems to be in our favour. Because when I selected the timber, I didn't...
I'm only guessing about whether the GoPro, because the screen's gone blank. Go on.
All right. I think it might perhaps a little bit more like that.
How do you know? Because I can't see it. Yeah, but go on.
When I bought the timber, for some reason, I don't know why this happened, I didn't notice a really nasty knot. However, when we've measured up the length of the mast, it comes to exactly there, look. There.
I've no idea where I'm pointing to.
It comes
GoPro, come on.
Comes to exactly there.
There's the knot.
Yeah.
Which is really nasty.
So there's a horrible knot there, and that's as far as the mast comes. We've put the taper into the top 3'6" of the mast, and I must say it's working really nicely, this timber. We've left it four-sided with 4 corners. The next job is to use a very clever and very special tool, which we'll look at in a minute, to mark out the corners so that we can then cut it down into 1/8, which kind of tells me that's an octagon. Is that right?
It is.
It's an octagon. So we're going to make it from a... Well, that would be a square, would it?
No, it'd be a quadrilateral, wouldn't it?
Quadrant?
No,
quadrahedral.
Quad something.
Quadrant, octagon?
Quad bike.
No.
Quad bike.
Anyway, we're going to make it from something with 4 sides to something with 8 sides. These 2 pegs are held against the timber. You've got to make sure they're very square, and then the 2 pencils, as you pull it along, mark a line. Got to hold it square. It's really important. The proportions are 7 to 10 to 7. 7 to 10 to 7. So in this case it's 6 inches between these 2 points. Between that point and that point is 1 3/4. Between that point and that point is 1 3/4. And between the 2 pencils should be 2 1/2. And the great thing is that because the mast tapers, as long as you keep those 2 dowels square against the mast, the proportions will remain accurate. So today we've come to Teignmouth Museum. It's got a fantastic collection of Morgan Giles artifacts, including plans and log books and all kinds of bits and pieces. and it's going to be a great place for us to be able to research the history of our boat for two reasons. Firstly, because it's where we originally got the plans from, and secondly, because Jane, the historian who is attached to the Morgan Giles Heritage Trust, has done a lot of research here and has been able to find out some really interesting details about the history of our boat.
And here we have the original build, 2308, job number, boat or building number 660. They've got her down as 14'6", but she's actually, from the plan, 14'7". R and sailing boat, rowing and sailing boat, Mr. Hillgrove Hills. December the 14th, and there was a file on her once upon a time, file number 7. One wonders what happened to that.
Could you tell us how the plans ended up in the Teignmouth Museum collection?
Yes, originally this was going back to when the yard was derelict at the end of the 70s. Tim Strait, he was walking past with his wife and he saw that there were various papers in a skip, and he and his wife gathered up as many. Once he realised they were plans, they gathered up as many as they possibly could carry and brought them to the, as it was, Teignmouth Museum then. That's where the first ones came from. And then after Kenneth Collier, who was the leading designer at the yard, after he passed away, his widow, Sheila, presented all the ones that he had in the house to the museum. And I remember Michael Hayward, who was curator of the museum at the time, telling me that when he went over, Sheila was pulling them out from under the bed and from the roof, up in the loft, out in the garage, and all in all, there are 700 plus, and these are now, the originals are now lodged with Classic Boat Museum Cowes on behalf of the Morgan Giles family. But Teignmouth Museum still has all the plans on hard drive. All the plans are available digitally.
Well, we're incredibly grateful to Jane, and through her research we've discovered that job number 2308 had a name.
We have various regatta results from Shaldon Regatta 1951, handicap for sailing boats 16 foot and under, second Blythe Spirit. Friday on the second day, this race was won by Blythe Spirit. The following year, again, she came second, and interestingly, that same year, she came second in the outboard motors race.
Good helmsman.
And at the end of the season, she was sold, and I believe I've got a record here somewhere. At the end of 55, she was sold. She was sold to a Mrs. Lancaster for £90 2 and 6.
And that's the last record we have of Blythe Spirit, the 4th of February, 1955. But, Mrs. Lancaster, if you're watching, we'd love for you to get in touch and tell us what happened to Blythe Spirit.
And do you know where the name Blythe Spirit comes from?
Yeah, from the play, isn't it, by Noel Coward?
Yes, but the name of the play came from a poem, To a Skylark. Now you read that verse, and if that doesn't fit everything,
that's amazing.
dingy.
I didn't know that. It's a Shelley poem.
Yeah.
Hail to thee, blithe spirit. In the golden lightning of the sunken sun, o'er which clouds are brightening, thou dost float and run, like an unbodied joy whose race is just begun.
So every boat needs a name, and we finally got to the stage now where we're about to name the boat. So we've come to Jeff Bowker's workshop just outside of Weymouth, and he's going to help us with making the nameplate for our boat.
I did the Boat Building Academy course finished it in 2015, and then was really lucky to find a workshop here, just outside Dorchester.
And you've got some fantastic projects, so this is a really good example of the kind of work that you do. The boat's called Lady Isabel, so could you just tell us a little bit about Lady Isabel?
Lady Isabel, we think she was built in the 50s in North Devon, owned by a Weymouth family. She went into storage, by all accounts, in a barn for 20 years or so, and then the family decided to bring her out, which is great. She's a beautiful looking boat. Storage wasn't good for her. She dried out massively, and there's a lot of filler was put in, which I've had to take out, and I've had to replace a number of bits on the boat over the years. But she keeps coming back, and we just keep getting her looking better and better, we hope. But she's lovely.
And at the moment, you've got a really interesting repair that's going on here. So you're replacing 4 or 5 of the timbers.
The reason that we're sistering or partnering timbers through the boat, I've done it at the forward end of the boat because the edges of the planks are becoming very brittle and broken, and the boat is now starting to what they call hinge, where you'll see that instead of it being a lovely round shape at the turn of the bilge, it's started to take on an angle, and these timbers or ribs or whatever you want to call them, depending which part of the country you come from, they are essentially hold the boat together. They hold the planks together, and when they start to break and the planks start to hinge, there's a weakness there. So what we're doing is we've created some new steamed oak timbers that now run from side to side, and they go alongside the existing timbers just to put strength back in the boat.
I guess that's kind of always a decision, isn't it, when you're restoring a boat, is how much do you kind of rebuild, how much do you repair? I guess that's quite a difficult decision.
It's a very difficult decision. A lot of boats that come my way are full of emotion. The family have had them, they had the boat built, or they used the boat in their youth, and it must be saved so they can, pass it on into the family. Wooden boats do need constant attention, and they do need looking after, but if you do look after them, they can last for a very long time.
So sort of final question, a lot of people who watch these videos are in love with wooden boats, but as somebody who restores and also builds wooden boats, why wooden boats?
That's a very good question. I think it's the shape of them. I mean, Lady Isabel, she's such a beautiful shape, and I think you can only get that from wood. I think a GRP version of this would look pretty humdrum, frankly. And I think the different building techniques, clinker happens to be my particular favourite, and I think the fact that there's provenance here. The Vikings were building boats like this, so they knew how to do that. They knew how to clench, join edges of planks together with rivets. And the wood being such a natural product, it bends itself, it takes its own shape, and naval architects and boat builders of the past, they embraced that, the wood, the natural wood, taking its shape, and then they would build a boat around that. And I just think they're lovely.
Couldn't agree with you more there. Well, thanks so much for showing us around the workshop. We look forward to seeing Lady Isabel on the water in the near future, I guess.
That's great, lovely.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
So there it is. The daughter of Blithe Spirit has a name. Spirit. Well, thanks very much for watching. Next time we're going to be rigging the boat and getting ready for launching. Although I think I might have said that last time. Oh, and it seems to be raining again.